My best friend tried to take my car after I refused to give him a game item, and now he spams mercy texts while calling me a traitor. These past few days have been really tough. My old friend, let's call him Dave, 21 male, has been my 20 male friend for 4 years now. The weeks leading up to this, he started acting weird. Forced smiles, weird laughs, and he always wanted to be near my kitchen counter. I didn't clock it right away. I wrote it off as final stress, then maybe he's broke, then the lazy, catch-all explanation we throw on people we don't want to interrogate. He's just going through something. But that counter thing stuck out. He'd come over, dump his phone, his vape, his hat, all in this little pile by my keys, and lean on the edge like a cat that pretends it doesn't care what's in the bowl. If I moved the keys to the hook, he'd drift there and fidget with the hook, sliding it back and forth against the wall so it squeaked. He'd say stupid trivia just to fill space. Did you know whales sleep vertically? But his eyes kept jumping to where I kept the keys. At the time, I thought he was just restless. Now I feel like a dumbass for not seeing it. Dave used to be easy to be around. Freshman year, we met in the dorm laundry room when my dryer ate my socks and his machine overflowed with soap. We bonded over hating the building and stayed up playing the same shooter until 4 a.m., screaming at randoms and debating which map designer should be fired. He's the kind of friend you inherit whole chunks of your life with. Inside jokes that run so long you forget the origin, shared hangovers, the first breakup post-mortem at 2 a.m. at Denny's. He always showed up with a goofy grin and a like he wanted you to know he chose you over whatever else he could be doing. That's what messed me up. How quick safe flipped to sketchy and how little warning I took seriously. About 2 weeks before this blew up, he started doing that laugh. You know the one. Mouth open, no sound, then a sharp little ha at the end. He'd hit it when he walked in my place and saw I'd cleaned. Heh, domestic. Or when he watched me stir a pot. Heh, Gordon Ramsay. It didn't land as a joke. It landed like a test I didn't know I was failing. He'd go quiet after, shoulders tight, fingers drumming the counter. When I asked what was up, I got nothing. Just tire, man. Then he'd flip back to fake chill, asked to use my bathroom like he suddenly remembered he had kidneys. Backing up to the game thing, because that's apparently the hill he chose to die on. There's this online game we play where loot drops are random, and sometimes you get a god-tier item you could grind 300 hours and never see again. I pulled one of those, some stupidly rare skin / weapon / buff combo. He'd beg for it because he'd missed the event, and you don't even use it like I would. I said no because I earned it, and also because it was bound to my account unless I did some janky workaround that risked a ban. At first he laughed it off, like faux magnanimous. Keep it king. Then over the next week, he started poking at it. Still hugging that sword. You'd be nicer if you weren't carried by pixels. I thought we were just busting balls. We always have. You call me names, I threw it back. That's the sport. But sometimes a joke is a knife handed to you handle first. 3 days ago, he came over while I was making dinner. Nothing fancy. Pasta and a jar sauce with extra garlic and crushed red pepper, because I'm not a monster. He walks in, does that drops his phone by my keys like it's a reflex and says, "Bathroom." I nod. I'm elbow deep in steam and noodles, tasting the sauce off the wooden spoon, half listening to him walk down the hall. I hear the faucet, the toilet, something like a tiny strangled clink, metal on ceramic, but there's a pan spitting oil and a timer ticking, and it barely registers. A few beats later, the front door slams. You know when your body knows before your brain? It felt like the room tilted. My hands started moving like they belonged to someone else. Stove off, lid on, towel thrown somewhere. I cut to the window out of pure animal impulse, and there he is, not hurrying, not even sneaky, just deliberate, opening my car door like it's his. The key fob glinted in his hand, my stupid little keychain flipping in the evening light. I ran. I didn't put on shoes. I didn't think. I yanked the door open so hard it bounced, sprinted across the concrete, and I'm yelling without planning words. "What the fuck are you doing?" It came out ugly and high like I was 12 again. He looked up, saw me, froze for half a second. I watched a decision pass across his face, some combination of embarrassment and screw it, and then he dropped the keys. They hit the driveway and bounced under the car like the universe wanted maximum inconvenience. He bolted. Not away, though. He jumped into his car, still idling at the curb, slammed his door so hard a thing rattled, then peeled out like a bad movie. Neighbors turned. I stood there barefoot, heart punching my ribs, and felt that buzzing shock you get after a near-miss car accident. The smell of garlic trailed me like a joke. I fished my keys out from under the chassis with a spatula, because that's what was in my hand when I ran out. My brain kept trying to label what just happened like it was a reasonable category. He was borrowing? Messing with me? A prank? You don't prank with a lockpick. You don't borrow a car off your friend's driveway by going through the front door like a raccoon. I walked back inside, killed the burners, and just sat. I called him. I didn't script it. It rang forever. Then he picked up and didn't say hello. I went, "What on earth were you just doing?" The calm in my voice surprised me. It sounded like I was asking him why he ate the last bagel. He knew I saw him. He didn't try to deny it. He exhaled hard into the phone like he'd been waiting to be asked. Then he launched. Not an explanation. A rant. He brought up the game. The damn game. He said I disrespected him, that I knew he wanted the item, and I held it over him like power, and that's not what friends do. He said I keep things from him. He used the word best. You wouldn't give me your best thing. He kept circling it like a dog around a bone. I tried to interrupt. You try to take my actual car, dude. He steamrolled. If you can't give to me, I'll just take things instead. He said it flat, like he'd rehearsed it, like it was a line in a show where he was finally the guy who says what he really thinks. I think I laughed. It came out sharp and mean. You just admitted a felony, bro. He hung up. The house felt weirdly quiet after. The pasta had clumped into one sticky mass. I hadn't turned off the oven. The preheat beep kept chirping like a smoke alarm with a dying battery. I shut it all off and sat again, palms pressed to my eyes until stars popped. The text started. First a paragraph. You made me do it. Then another one while I was still reading. I always looked out for you. I made sure people didn't talk shit about you. And you can't even share what you don't deserve. Not a hint of sorry. Not a trace of my bad. It read like he'd been writing it for weeks. I screenshot everything. He kept going. I saw how you looked at me, like I'm a beggar. You go out with the rich kids now, and you think you're better. You owe me. That one made my stomach flip. He told me once that his dad drilled that phrase into his head. If someone helps you, you owe them, like debt was the only way to keep people bought in. I used to think it explained why Dave overpaid me back for gas and beers, why he tried to shove cash in my hand after I covered pizza. Now it felt like a scoreboard he'd kept on me. I stopped replying after my felony laugh. I didn't trust myself to say anything that wouldn't blow this into something you can't unsay. I locked my car, then locked it again, then moved the keys into my bedroom. I didn't sleep much. Every noise outside sounded like him. Every car that slowed down outside my building made me sit up straight and hold my breath like a rabbit in a field. At 3 a.m., I convinced myself I heard someone on the stairs. It was probably the downstairs guy coming home drunk. I still stood behind my bedroom door with a frying pan like an idiot, heart doing its best metal drummer impression. The next morning, I called the non-emergency police line. I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to be his mugshot next to a story about young men ruining their lives over nothing. I wanted a grown-up to tell me what the rule is, and I'd follow it. The woman on the phone was nice in that practiced way. She took my name, my address, asked if I felt in danger right this second. I said no, with a question mark at the end. She said I should come into the station and file a report if I believed a crime had been attempted, because if it escalates, you'll want a record. Walking into the station felt like walking into a doctor's office when you aren't sure if you're overreacting. I sat in a plastic chair and stared at a TV playing the morning news on mute. A couple argued in whispers across from me about a parking ticket. A little kid with a Spider-Man backpack swung his feet and watched a cop eat a muffin like it was a live show. They called my name, and a guy with a buzz cut led me back to a small room with a round table and a computer that looked like it saw the Obama years. I told him the story. He made cop faces, those little non-expressions where their eyebrows don't move and their eyes don't give away what they think. When I said the line about, If you can't give to me, I'll just take things instead. He typed it exactly like that. Slow, deliberate. I handed over my phone. He scrolled the texts and took pictures of them with another phone, which made me laugh inside because I expected something more high-tech. He asked if he'd actually gotten into my car, if there was damage, if he took anything. No, I said, because I stopped him. He nodded. Then we're looking at attempted theft at most, maybe trespassing depending. He said the word burglary, like a mechanic saying transmission. Heavy, expensive. Can you do anything? I asked, sounding younger than I wanted to. He leaned back like he was estimating a price. We can take a report. We can contact him for a statement. We can document. We can't arrest him off this unless there's more. But if he escalates or you get more threatening messages, call us. If he comes back, call 911. I filled out the report. I wrote my stupid little signature at the bottom like it made me an adult. I kept thinking of Dave's face when he saw me in the driveway, how it flickered like someone ripped a mask off mid-smile. On my way out, the officer said one more thing. Don't block him. If he keeps messaging, we want a paper trail. Save everything. Don't engage if you can help it. He said it like he'd given that speech 1,000 times to people who thought their friend wouldn't possibly do XYZ, because that's not who they are. He didn't say it, but I heard it between the lines. You don't really know someone until they think you took something from them. I walked home with a copy of the report in a manila folder, like I joined some club I didn't want to be in. I set it on my kitchen counter, the same stupid counter Dave hovered over, and stared at it. The pasta from last night sat there in one congealed heap in the sink dish. I dumped it and let the faucet roar. The sound filled the apartment better than silence. My phone buzzed on the counter and I flinched like it might explode. It was him. Dude, did you go to the cops? Over that. No greeting. No emoji. I didn't answer. Another came through. You betrayed me. Another. After everything, he went on a tear, text after text, like his thumbs were sprinting to outrun his own thoughts. He ping-ponged between tough and wounded. You want to make me a criminal. You made me feel like trash. I was joking about the car. I only wanted to borrow it. I wasn't going to steal anything. Then, you owe me an apology for making me feel like a thief. I stared at the screen and felt the floor move under me again. The worst part wasn't the anger, it was recognizing his patterns. How he could sound convincingly hurt even while he was twisting the knife. He's seen me panic. He knows which strings to pluck to make me shut down. He knows where I keep my keys, and he knows why. He's listened to me talk about my triggers, and he's not above using that map. I started typing a long, righteous thing with bullet points and screenshots and logic that would make a debate coach proud. Then I pictured him smirking at his phone, finding the one word to set me on fire, and I deleted everything. I sent one sentence. You tried to take my car, Dave. He read it and didn't reply, which was worse than the flood. I told my roommate what happened when he got home. A good guy named Marco, who keeps a plan alive and a second pair of sneakers by the door in case we go shoot hoops at night, and who once talked a drunk stranger down from throwing a bench. He listened, jaw tight, and then he asked something simple that hit too clean. Are you safe? I answered yes, because I didn't want him to feel like he had to fix it. He nodded, then took my keys off the counter and hung them behind the broom closet door out of sight. Let's be boring for a bit, he said, and it felt like a hug. Word got out faster than I wanted because our friend group exists on group chats like we're all -1 organic brain or whatever. I didn't post. I sent one message to one mutual asking if he'd seen Dave today. By dinner, 3 different people had texted me, WTF happened? And one had sent, heard you call the cops on Dave? Bro, that's the fun part of being the one who escalates to adults. You become a narc even when you're the only one who gets the sick feeling in your stomach watching someone you love pick your lock. I screenshotted the texts and sent them to the mutuals. Most went quiet or sent a low whistle. One, a guy named Connor who's always been too impressed by confidence, wrote, he'd never really steal from you though. He just gets dramatic. I typed and erased 5 versions of fuck off. Finally, I wrote, he had my keys in his hand. Connor heart reacted like we were discussing a meme. Muted that chat for my sanity. That night, Dave shifted gears. He called instead of texting. I let go to voicemail. He called again. When I finally answered because fear feels worse in silence, he sounded soft, like the old him after a long day. Hey man, like nothing was on fire. I let him talk. He apologized without apologizing. I'm sorry you felt scared. He said the sentence like a hostage note. He said he'd been drinking a little earlier and wasn't thinking straight, but also that he was thinking crystal clear and just trying to teach me something about selfishness. He said those two contradictory things without noticing. He said I humiliated him. He said, I'm your friend. Friends share. I said, friends don't steal. He snapped. The soft drained out. It wasn't stealing. It was borrowing. I would have brought it back. I told him no means no even if it's about a stupid car. He threw the word no back like it was a slur. Your no is just control. I felt heat crawl on my neck. He knew exactly where to aim. He started in on my trigger points. And yeah, I hate how that phrase sounds in his mouth. He said I always overreact because of my dad's temper. He's not wrong. I flinch at doors slamming because of childhood. I've told Dave that on late nights when sharing feels like freedom, not ammunition. He said I escalate straight to authority because I can't handle conflict. He said going to the police was a betrayal because we settle it between us. He said I needed to come to his place and we'd talk it out and he'd show me how I misread it. I'm not proud, but I raised my voice. You don't get to show me anything. You got caught trying to jack my car. The silence after that hit different. He changed tactics so fast it gave me whiplash. He started crying, or he made the noises that sound like crying, and maybe they were real and maybe they weren't. He said he's been broke for months. He said his car's engine light is on and his boss cuts his hours because he shows up late and he's late because his car sucks and his car sucks because he's broke. He looped it until I got dizzy. Your car runs. You have shifts you can swap. You have parents who answer your calls. You don't know what it's like. He started throwing little pebbles of our history in my window. Who came to your mom's surgery? Who drove you to the ER when you cut your hand? Who brought you soup when you had the flu? All true, all heavy, none of it a down payment on my Honda. I said I get it, which I don't fully, but I wanted him to feel seen. I said I would have given him rides if he asked. He said he didn't want rides. He wanted to not feel like a charity case. He said taking the car would have given him, what, dignity? That's the word he used. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted copper. Stealing my car would have given you dignity? He huffed. Borrowing. The call ended in a tangle of unmet need and anger. I sat on the edge of my bed and felt the tire that lived behind your eyes when your body hasn't fully come down. Day 2 after the station, one of the officers called me back. He said they made contact with Dave. He denies intent to steal, says he was playing a joke and that you're blowing it out of proportion. He said it in cop voice, neutral. I asked if they told him not to contact me. He said, we advised him to refrain from contact. Advised. Cool. He said something about how charges could be filed but would likely stall without clear damage or stolen property, but that my report matters if anything else happens. I hung up and felt like I'd turn a key in a door that opens to a long hallway instead of a room. Now the texts aren't just angry. They're strategic. He'll send something sweet. Miss my bro, followed by, you know your tendency to cut people off will make you alone. Then a voice memo of him sounding small. I'm sorry, man. I hate fighting. Then a screenshot of our chat from last year where I told him he's family followed by, family doesn't do this. He knows my weak spots. He knows I hate being seen as cold. He knows if he says I'm abandoning him. A part of me will scramble to prove I'm not. He's not wrong. I typed we'll talk soon 4 times and deleted it 4 times. I talked to my mom because she's annoyingly good at seeing the thing behind the thing. She said, people tell you who they are when the stakes are low. Believe them when the stakes get high. I said the stakes felt pretty high already. She said the fact that he didn't even try to deny it means this wasn't impulsive. He scoped your kitchen, she said, and it sounded hilarious to hear my mother say scoped, but she was right. She told me to change my routines for a bit. Don't post where you are. Lock your windows. Tell your neighbors. I rolled my eyes on the phone like a teenager and then did all of it because my hands wouldn't stop shaking when I thought about the front door slam. The worst conversation happened with his sister. She DM'd me out of nowhere like a bomb with a heart sticker. Hey, Can we talk about Dave? She apologized on his behalf in that exhausted way that sounded rehearsed. She said he's been spiraling and he hates asking for help because their dad made help a curse word. She said she's not making excuses, and then she made excuses. He really admires you. He feels left behind. Left behind hit me hard because I've been running on that same treadmill inside my head since we were kids. You come up even an inch and you look at the people you love and ask, are they coming? And sometimes the answer is they don't want to run. I asked her if she thought he'd do something else. She paused too long. He won't hurt you, she said finally, which wasn't the question I asked. He's not violent. I thought about the way he dropped my keys like they were hot when I shouted. I thought about the line on the phone when he said, I'll just take things. That word hung in the air like a fog. Things. Things that are yours, that you use to move through the world, that a friend knows you need. Day 3, I switched where I park. Not because I think hiding my car fixes anything, but because doing even a small thing makes the panic feel like it has edges. I clear the counter. I put the keys in a bowl in my bedroom and shut the door like that did anything meaningful. I stopped playing the game that started this mess because every time I logged on, my stomach tightened when I saw the rare item, like the pixels themselves were judging me for not handing them over to keep the peace. I know that's irrational. I still turn the game off and let my brain unclench. People keep asking me why I didn't just give in the damn game thing. Like it's a handshake to avoid war. Like friendship is measured by how much you cave to keep someone else comfortable. I get the urge to avoid confrontation. I grew up keeping quiet to dodge a bad mood. But I'm realizing there's a kind of quiet that rots you from the inside. If I'd handed him a digital sword, I'd still be sitting on my couch with a friend who thinks he can push past my no and write the story after. And maybe next time it's not a game, maybe it's money or my time or my car keys without the pretense. That's the part that makes my ribs ache. How easily he script flipped my boundary into betrayal. The officer told me not to block him, so I don't. I catalog. I save screenshots in a folder labeled D. It makes me feel gross, like I'm a spy on my own life. He sends "You betrayed me" on Monday. Tuesday, "You're ruining my life." Wednesday, "Please, I'm asking for mercy." Then, "I forgive you for going to the cops," like he's the priest in this scenario. He uses words I've used in therapy back at me like a weapon. He says I'm withholding and punitive and projecting. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm just trying to not get swallowed. He came to the coffee shop where I work part-time and stood in line like a normal customer, hands in pockets, rocking back on his heels. When I looked up and saw him, my heart tried to climb out my throat. He lifted a hand like I was across a party. I shook my head. He rolled his eyes and stepped out of line like I was being dramatic. My manager clocked the standoff and slid behind me. "You good?" she murmured. I nodded because my mouth didn't work. Dave left without buying anything, then texted me. I wanted to talk like adults. He added, "You made me leave like a criminal." I stared at the message while tapping a portafilter against a knockbox and wondered if any of this would feel real if I read it as someone else's story. That night, I left a light on in the living room like I was 13 again. Marco laughed and didn't say why. He moved the sneaker pair so the treads faced the door. Some small animal brain move that feels like protection. He asked if I wanted him to text Dave and tell him to back off. I said no, because it would feed the narrative that I sick people on him. Marco shrugged and said the thing he always says when I spiral, "You're not crazy." It helps like a warm hand between your shoulder blades. I keep replaying the early days. I remember the first time he asked to borrow my car freshman year. I said yes, and tossed him the keys, and he brought it back full of gas, even though he only drove a mile. He grinned like he'd won a prize. I remember thinking, this is what good guys do. They fold your towels and return what they take better than they found it. I didn't realize then that some people do that because they're banking credit. They hand you a coffee when you're sad, and they add a line on a ledger you don't see. They keep track. And when you say, "No, not that," they flip the book open to your debits and say pay up. I'm not on Reddit because I have answers. I'm here because I keep staring at the report on my counter like it's a receipt for becoming a person who chooses himself over loyalty, and I'm not great at that. I'm here because the text where he begs for mercy hit parts of me that call me a villain. I'm here because I'm starting to have that gross self-slight. Like maybe I should have given him the thing. Maybe this all would have rolled past. Maybe I overreacted. And then I picture his hand on my car door, and my body answers faster than my brain. No, he's still texting. He's mixing mercy with daggers. I'm having a hard week, followed by, "You always wanted an excuse to be superior." He asked me to bring the report to the station and withdraw it, like it's a library book. He says he has interviews coming up, and this could ruin him. He says his mom's going to cry. He says his sister will never forgive me if he gets in trouble. He blames me for every possible future where he isn't okay. It's a lot to carry, being someone else's imagined judge and jury. I am 20. I can barely remember to buy toilet paper, and now I'm starring in his redemption arc as the villain. I asked myself if posting here makes me one of those people who tries cases in public because they're not sure they're right. Maybe. Or maybe I needed strangers to say the thing my friends can't because they know us both. This boundary doesn't make me cruel. It makes me a person with a door he gets to close. I keep thinking about that sentence he said, "If you can't give to me, I'll just take things instead," because it's the true center of this. That sentence isn't about a game or a car. It's about what he thinks he's owed by people who love him. It's about how he learned to avoid the humiliation of asking by skipping to the possession of having. It's about entitlement dressed up as pain. I can hold space for the pain and still call the entitlement what it is. I can feel compassion for the kid whose dad trained him to see help as debt and still recognize that adult Dave stood in my kitchen and decided my no didn't matter. What I do next? I keep doing the boring things. I document. I don't engage. I tell the people who need to know my work and my building. I keep my keys in my bedroom. I don't get baited into a fight on text. I accept the dull ache of being called a traitor by someone I used to call brother. I remind myself that adulthood isn't a movie where you win by making everyone happy. Sometimes you win by making yourself a place where your no means what it means. He sent another one while I've been writing this. "I'm begging you. Don't do this to me." And I feel that tug, the one that wants to apologize just to make the begging stop. Then I remember him laughing in my doorway like my fear was cute and dropping my keys like they burned his fingers when the plan fell apart. I remember the slam of my door and the sound it made in my body. I remember the officer saying, "Document, don't engage," and my mom saying, "Believe what you saw." I read his mercy, and I think about how mercy without accountability is just permission. So am I the asshole for not giving him the thing? For going to the police? For still holding the line while he pokes every bruise I've collected and calls it love? If being an asshole means I didn't hand over my stuff to avoid the fight he promised to pick, then fine. If being an asshole means I filed a report because I needed there to be a record in case this didn't end with a "my bad" and a beer, then fine. If being an asshole means I didn't let him rewrite the story of what happened in my own driveway, then fine. I'll be that. I love my friend. I loved him enough to let him see the messy parts of me, and I loved him enough to think we were on the same side of the rope in this life. Maybe we were for a while. Maybe you can love someone and still not let them in your car. Maybe you can mourn what you had and still choose yourself when they try to take it. That's where I'm at. Sitting on my couch, staring at my phone lighting up with apologies welded to threats, and trying to grow a spine that doesn't need his permission. And yeah, I won't block him. Not because the cop told me not to, though he did, but because I want a record to show if this goes the wrong way that I saw it, I named it, and I did the not fun, unheroic, deeply boring adult thing. I said no. I got help. I didn't make it my job to save him from the consequences of a sentence that came out of his mouth. 3 days ago, I was cooking dinner, and my friend tried to take my car. Everything since has been gravity. I keep falling back to that. Whatever story he builds now around hurt and humiliation and loyalty, whatever tales he tells about who I became when I turned on him, the scene is simple. Bathroom break, metal jingle, door slam, my bare feet hitting the driveway, keys clattering under the car, a face I thought I knew flickering between shame and screw it. If you're reading this and deciding what character I am, I can't control that. I can only tell you what happened, and ask the question I can't stop asking myself at 2 a.m. Did I screw up by not handing over a digital sword to keep my real life from combusting? Or am I finally learning that keeping the peace isn't the same as keeping myself safe? Either way, I'm tired, and I'm not going to his house to talk it out. And if he shows up here again, I'll call 911 with my voice steady because I practiced a sentence in my head. There's a man here who won't leave. I have a report on file. I'll say it out loud, even if my throat closes, even if my guts twist, even if some part of me cries over what used to be. I won't be baited into making his comfort the price of my boundaries. I won't confuse mercy with erasing what happened in my driveway. And if that makes me the asshole, okay. I can live with that a lot easier than I can live with handing him the keys.